You can't control how people buy and sell and when they do it, but if you're in front of them frequently and often and authentically, it's going to propel your referral business, your, just people knowing, recognizing your name off the street, or just people recognizing your face. So I think that's all that we can do. My goal when I set my goals isn't to sell 6 houses, it's to post 6 times. It's to send 6 postcards. It's to attend 6 different events. It's all these things that is what I can control versus something I can't control, like selling 6 houses.
Hi, ladies. Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Real Estate Mama podcast. It's Brayden here with Kasie. We have her back for a return episode, but we're going to talk about a new topic today. So I'm really excited about that. So Kasie, thank you so much for being here a second time. And can you give a quick introduction about yourself, where you're located, all of that good stuff to our community?
I would love to. I'm Kasie Gray. I know it looks like Cassie or whatever, just remember Casey. And I live out in Ukiah, California, which is in Northern California, about 2 hours north of San Francisco, an hour north of Sonoma County. We are part of wine country, the forgotten part of wine country. Um, and so I live in a small town. I have 2 daughters. I'm a broker associate and with a smaller boutique brokerage called W Real Estate. And that's me.
Cool. Okay. So, and did you say how long have you been in real estate now?
I just celebrated 8 years like 2 days ago. No, like 5 days ago now. But
And
I
you started young too in real estate.
yeah, I got my license at 18. I graduated high school at 16 and then got my AAs at our local Mendocino college, who had a great like local real estate professor. So then I got those and got my license as soon as I could, and then background processing, all of that. And then finally got my license at like 18 and a half. And I thought I was so smart and educational. And now I just look up back at those pictures that, oh, I really was a child who was trusting me. But
That's so funny. I didn't know that you graduated at 16. That's really cool. How is that you just like didn't want to like do you just want to get done with high school fast or like what?
yeah, so I got sick and I was on independent study and then I just never went back. So I just stayed on independent study, took like more classes than necessary. And then through our community college, you can take classes for free as a high school student. And you get, so if, like say classes for 3 credits, it gives you 9 high school equivalent credits. So by the time I was done taking all my like regular general education courses and classes, it processed over to my high school degree like a month before I turned 17. So I just like to say it was 16, but
Yeah, but
basically
still.
17.
Yeah.
And then still continue to take all the classes. There's only one real estate professor at our college, so I would just take like whatever he was offering, and took forever. It felt like forever, 2 years, but and then would just do that, and then I just felt like it was like a fun game. Like one semester, I took 26 units and I didn't even buy a book. I was just like, flying by the seat of my pants, just being a 17-year-old at college. So it was fun. And I worked 3 jobs and just knew real estate was what I wanted to do, at least until I could have enough experience to get a degree, not a degree, but like the education that I needed to maybe transition out. But real estate has allowed for like so much flexibility with my kids. So I don't know that I could ever be employed by someone else, but
Yeah.
um, it's been working out okay.
Yeah. So that's interesting when you're describing that because I always see that you're involved in what seems like tons of stuff locally in your area.
Mhm.
So it kind of just sounds like you've always like just been involved in a lot and like done a lot. So I want to talk about that a little bit because you run your real estate business, but you also are involved and run like several things locally in your area. So can you tell us like just like a quick rundown of like some of the things that you're involved with and like what you do in addition to real estate.
Yeah, so my mom has always been super involved in volunteering. So I learned it from her. Like I would be 5 years old and we didn't have a skate park and she was like very passionate about skate parks. So I would go every other week to skate park meeting or fundraisers. And so it's just kind of in my blood, I guess. But I saw her struggle in the sense financially that she, had so much to give, but like didn't have much to give. So she, volunteered a lot of time and effort and energy. And my main focus, like for building my family, was to, first make sure that my bills are paid, my family, has, the financial side of it. And I think that's what real estate does so well for so many people. And so how I do that basically in turn is also giving back. So like when I first started, I would like sponsor a pet to get adopted. And now I run our women in business group, which I started from the ground up. And so that essentially is like my way of giving back. I volunteer, I don't get paid to do any of that. But in the sense, it's additional exposure for me and my name, and also for, I think we can all lift each other up, and I think you can only rise by doing that. And so that's my main like give back. And then I also volunteer for the 100 plus women strong group in our community. So what that is, basically 100 women get together, donate $100, and you raise $10,000 for one of the nonprofits. Like 3 different nonprofits speak, and then you choose a winner. And so I love to volunteer. I don't like to go to things just naturally, like if I was attending one of the things that I host, probably wouldn't go because we all get anxious or whatever. But if I'm the host and I'm the one in charge, I don't really have a choice. Like if I have a job, I don't mind going to do something. So I think that's where my volunteer stuff comes in, and I just have a lot of control issues. So I hate paperwork, and that's the thing about real estate that I don't love. Like, I don't understand how anyone is a transaction coordinator because that stuff just like is absolutely disgusting to me. I know it's necessary, like I do what I have
Yeah.
to do, but I like the fun stuff. I like the marketing. I like the relationships. I like all of those things, but I don't like having to just call someone up and be like, hey, do you know someone that wants to buy a house? I'd rather be like, hey, I'm offering this. Can you come and attend? Or, hey, I'm volunteering for this. Do you want to join? Versus like, just the regular old salesman call. And so I think
Yeah.
spreading the wealth and educating and like being involved in the community is super important. And whatever you can do to get your face out there and get in front of people and be authentic about it is the way to go.
Yeah. I think, there's so many things that I'm like thinking about as you're saying all of that and sharing your story, but I think you're not alone in that, not wanting to just call somebody and being like, who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest? Because it is awkward, and it is kind of like, I think it feels inauthentic, especially to a lot of women, because it's like I think we're relational, like just like in general, we want to have the relationships, we want to like know people, and that just doesn't feel like very relational when you're just doing that out of the blue. And so to be able to have something to actually offer and serve is great, because real estate is going to come up if you're having conversations and meeting new people anyways, or if you're in touch with people that you already know and you're continuing to, like a big question, like if you're meeting somebody, is like, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm in real estate. Okay, now somebody new knows you're in real estate, or somebody that you continue to meet going to these events and stuff, like they're going to be like, if you're talking, oh, how's work with you? Like it's just going to become a natural byproduct of the things that you're doing, versus having to like force yourself to kind of do this like cold reach out that just feels like you're only contacting them because you need clients and you need business. And there's just a different energy behind those two things, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's all real estate is like a numbers game. You can only control what you do. You can't control how people buy and sell and when they do it. But if you're in front of them frequently and often and authentically, it's going to propel your referral business, your, just people knowing, recognizing your name off the street, or just people recognizing your face. So I think that's all that we can do. My goal when I set my goals isn't to sell 6 houses, it's to, post 6 times, it's to send 6 postcards, it's to attend 6 different events. It's all these things that is what I can control versus something I can't control, like selling 6 houses.
Yeah.
I can't make the phone ring, but I can put my face in front of you so that when you're ready to call someone, you think about me first.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's actually a big thing, is there's a total shift when you realize like you can't, no matter how, like you can't control the outcome, but you can control how much you put in and what that looks like. And if you're doing things that are income producing, or you're meeting new people or building your current relationships, there's going to be an output there, but like we're not going to be able to control everything that comes out or what the specific numbers are. And so I think that's a good way, of focusing on it, because a lot of people just focus, like they're just taught in real estate, like you set this, this number of houses that you're going to sell this year. And then you have agents wondering why they're discouraged and feeling like they're failing. And it's because we're not focusing on what is going in, or what we're putting in, and like what those activities are.
Yeah, definitely.
So you recently launched a farming kit that you sell to other agents. Can you tell us about that, and kind of like your strategy and like tips when it comes to getting started with farming?
Yeah, so when I first got into real estate, my boss told me your business card picture looks like you're too young and you need to send out a postcard to all your sphere. And so I did that, and I pouted about how my picture didn't look young when his looked like it was like just old JCPenney's photo. So I took his, mailer strategy and then kind of amped it up and made it my own, versus just sending out football magnets, because I don't watch football. I kind of
You
turned
don't,
it
Kasie?
I don't watch sports. I don't go outside, and that's pretty much what I do. So I'm an inside dog, as my boyfriend says.
Okay.
I turned it into, like what can benefit me and my clients and my sphere, as someone who has sold 0 houses. Like, who is that, and how do I reach out to them and say, oh, I know I was just 12 years old like 2 days ago, and now can you please use me to buy your biggest house, or your biggest purchase, which is your house. And so one of the ways that I did that was building like facial recognition through postcards and mailers. And so I think I had maybe sold 1 house, and one of the family members I have was on my list. They're like, I see you're just so busy, you're doing so much, like you're always in my mailbox too. And I was like, "So 1 house." But that recognition and that, like, the brand acknowledgement, how many times you get bogged down by an Instagram ad, and finally you're like, I'll just buy it so you can leave me alone. And so that's basically what I kind of teach with the postcard marketing plan. And it's not to necessarily waste your money, but it's to get in front of your sphere in a place that is guaranteed. You can post on Facebook all day long. You can post on Instagram. Are the people that know, like, and trust you going to see you? And you can't guarantee it. Algorithms are always changing. Everything is different. But what you can guarantee is that you have their address and that you can be in their mailbox, 4 times a year. Even makes a huge difference. If you can budget that, if you have 100 people on your list and you're maybe budgeting $200 each mailer, that's $800 that you're getting in front of those 100 people 4 times guaranteed. No if ands or buts. And even like when it comes to like my Christmas cards, for the longest time it was just me doing Christmas cards by myself until I had a family. But I had always sent out a Christmas card because it's me, but it always has my logo on it. So that's what I say is like, put whoever you might send your Christmas card to on your list. And this is for, more so your sphere. But
Yeah.
I think your sphere is important to be able to connect with offline too. Like that's my main focus. If you came to me and said I have an $800 budget for the year, who can I mail stuff to? I would say your sphere. And so I think that's, where you can start, trying to figure out what is authentic to you. I send out a calendar, I send out spring cleaning with like coupons from different vendors that will help with those spring cleaning items. I send out like magnets. So like I was just scrolling TikTok the other day and my friend posted a video of her cooking dinner and in the background is my magnet on her fridge. And I commented, I was like, I should have sponsored this video. Like you go into like I went to a listing appointment one time and I didn't even know that they were on my list, but they had signed up for my list. They had my magnets, that's how people go to recognize you. And there's times where I go to someone's house, they have my magnet and there's someone else's sign in the yard. But that's not to say that that's not including to my like brand recognizability. And like, if someone goes over to someone else's house and they see my magnet there, and then they go to someone else's house and my magnet's there, and everywhere they go, they're like, oh, that Kasie Gray is everywhere. And so when they think about selling, who are you going to want to sell your house with? Probably the person that's going to be everywhere, So I think that is the main part of like the farming course is like reaching out to your sphere and getting offline and building that. And then the second part, or I guess, do you want to ask me questions about the sphere
you're
part?
good. Yeah, keep going.
So then I'm obviously passionate about this. And so then if you're a football fan too, you can send out football postcards, but I'm not going to because I don't like football. So like if I sent out a card about like all our football teams are moving to Vegas or whatever, but if I sent out a 49ers schedule and someone saw me in the streets and said, oh, you catching that Niners game? I'd be like, no, I don't even catch anything. I don't catch balls. I don't catch games. I don't watch it. So, it's not relevant to me. But if you were going to go to my Instagram and click on my story, probably I'm posting something about cleaning or organizing or summer events or whatever it is that I'm, sending to you. So it's something I can talk about. And then when it comes to farming, I highly recommend. So I'm just kind of break it down. It's more in depth in my course, obviously, but I know whoever's here listening, I appreciate you and I want you to be knowledgeable. So when it comes to farming, what I recommend is figuring out what your niche is. So the same thing that you're promoting on Instagram, you're going to want to promote in your postcards. And so, like, for example, mine is move up buyers. So I'm not going to pick the mailing route of people in, like $2 million houses because that's not my niche. My niche is maybe where typical first time buyers are, where there's high turnover, where the purchase price is low enough for a first time buyer, but the resale amount is high enough to have some equity and go buy something bigger, And so figuring out in my MLS what area that is, and then going and cross-checking it with USPS every door direct mailers, and going and using RPR to map out that every door direct mail route and combine it with the mailing list from RPR is like the biggest life hack, because then you can do every door direct, every other postcard that you send. It's a lot cheaper to do that. You don't know who it's going to. So maybe there's some renters, maybe there's some landlords, wherever it's going, it's just going there. You can't control it. But then you can use your mailing list to then send out calendars or items that are not eligible for every door direct. And so doing that, you can be, double exposed, if you will. And so at a lower amount and be able to farm that area, but also engage with that area, so if it's your neighborhood or if it's just a random neighborhood in your town that you have no affiliation with, is my biggest suggestion. And then when it comes to what you send them, If you want to send them stuff, the same stuff that you would send your sphere, that's okay. It doesn't have to just be just solds and just listeds or market stats, or do you want to sell your house? People want value. If you look at your mailbox and you got a flyer from the furniture store that said, $5 off, is it going to be worth it for you to go into that furniture store and get the $5 off? But if they said free hot dog, maybe I want a free hot dog if you don't have to do anything for it, or whatever it might be. So like they want value. No one's going to put something on their counter or on their fridge if it doesn't give them anything. But if you're going to send them a list of all the local events this summer, they might keep that for a little bit, So it's providing value. And then after the third time, maybe saying, what's your house worth? But just sending just solds to every different neighborhood in town isn't going to get you your budget very far. Sending to the same neighborhood 3 times is going to get you a lot farther in like the brand recognizability.
Yeah.
I don't know. I keep wanting to say that word.
Brand recognition.
Recognition. There we go.
I know what you're trying to say. I know what you're trying to say.
That's wrong. So that's like my kind of what I preach. And then I also have templates, it's just stuff that I've come up with just because I like to, do my own thing. But there's ways that you can like turn coffee and contracts posts into, mailers. There's so many ways that you can reach out to people that's not just how much is your house worth. No one cares. If they want to see what their house is worth, they'll go on Zillow and see what their estimate is,
Right.
So you have to provide value and then ask them if they want to know what their house is worth.
Totally. Yeah. And you kind of have to break up, like, I think a little bit of that direct ask too, whether that's social media or, whatever kind of marketing. It's like, you kind of have to break up like the direct ask and like the direct CTA with something that's just a little bit more casual or community related. That way people don't get bored because, we know that people are not buying and selling their homes every single day. So they may be, the only thing that's going to be hooking them in is like additional stuff other than just the real estate to be willing to even like look at your stuff for a longer period of time outside of just when they're the one time they're buying and selling every few years.
Yeah. And when someone talks about buying and selling, you want your name to be the first one that they think of. And they're not going to think of the postcard that they threw away. They don't even know what you look like. But if they had your summer events on their fridge for the last 3 months, they're probably going to remember your name or at least your face. And when they see you at the grocery store, they're going to be like, I recognize her from somewhere, So I think that's the most important part is how do you not get thrown in the trash?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like your templates and stuff are more like eye-catching? Like, do you try to do like different designs than just like the typical like real estate mailers so that they look a little different and kind of like a break of pace from what people are used to when it comes to like real estate postcards?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially for like my value postcards, I try to like get creative with it, and make it fun and bright and like stick to my brand colors, kind of in a way. But I think it's all just, item relevant. So like I'll tell you my annual postcard plan is January, a calendar, March, spring cleaning, June, summer events, like August market update. So I made this really cute, like, remember those quizzes in magazines? Like, do you want to sell your house? And then it was like a link to a different question. It was like, is your house too small for you? And then like all of the answers ended up to just being like, call Kasie. But it was just like a fun little way. And then on the back side, I put the annual stats from January to January to July. And so like on there, I put the market stats for Ukiah, but it was like a fun way of doing it. It wasn't just like, it was like bright neon and pink and all the things. So I'm not saying you have to do that, but It definitely is like a different, like at least they're gonna look at it for a minute before they throw it in the trash. Um, and then in October, I was supposed to send out an invite to go hang out at the pumpkin patch, but it's been a month for us, so I didn't. But I did it last year and sent it to, 300 different addresses, and like 4 people showed up. I spent $50 on pumpkins, but everyone thought that I was willing to buy them a pumpkin. And so it's a great,
Yeah.
like I had past clients text me a picture and say, see you at the patch, and they didn't end up showing up, but that's fine. Like as long as
Yeah.
they thought I would,
Yeah.
and then sending a Christmas card in November, you always want to try to be like the first one that they get. And they're like, oh, she's really on top of it. So, um, and then another postcard or another calendar in January. So just kind of
Right.
like all those things. Imagine if what you would do as a consumer if you got all those things. What
Yeah.
would you think? Even if you got those from any brand, if you got 6 different postcards from the furniture design store, you would be like, wow, they're really doing a lot of business. They're sending a lot of stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they send it once a year and then you forget about it, and that's all that you get. So I think
Yeah.
even if you have 100, 200 people in your sphere is where I would start first. And then if you don't know anyone in your local area, like if you moved or if you just don't, I personally don't like talking to people that I know that much, because I know that they know who
Yeah.
I am. It feels more, I'd rather talk to a stranger any day than like my aunt. So I understand if you want to start farming, and I think that's the way to go, is just pick one spot. Like if I would have picked the same spot 8 years ago and still been mailing to them, I can't even imagine what my business would look like today.
Yeah.
So you just have to start and be consistent, because it's not going to pay off in 1 or 2 mailings. It's the long road.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that a lot of people that's the part that a lot of people struggle with, is they try something for a couple times and then
Yeah.
it doesn't work out and then they move on. So I
Yeah.
think it's really important to just pick one spot, even if you send them 2 mailers a year. 2 mailers a year times 8 years is 16 mailers,
Yeah.
and that's a lot more times that you would be in front of them than just in general. Like people pay $600 to be on a shopping cart once a month, and what does that do?
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I think you have to pick your budget and then go
Yeah.
from there and figure out what you can allocate the funds to and what size mail route you want to do.
Totally.
But I think that there's a lot of money to be made, because there's like 2 people in our town that are sending out mailers, and one's just sold. Every time it's just sold to that
Yeah.
neighborhood, and the other one, and it's been the same branding since probably 2002. So
Yeah.
I think, there's obviously in other markets there's more competition, but definitely you just have to start.
Yeah. I think too, like if you have to start small and less frequent, but you can stay consistent with it and then add up over time, it's that compound effect. And if you guys haven't read the book, The Compound Effect, or at least listen to it on Audible, I think it's really, I think it's good for any business owner, but I always recommend that to real estate agents, because sometimes because we are playing such a long game with so much of what we're doing, it's good to know that even if you don't see the effects right now, you don't go to the gym and all of a sudden you have a 6 pack, but if you stay consistent with it, and it's gonna come over time. Well, maybe not for everybody, but not everybody's gonna get a 6 pack.
Your business will come if you're in the
Yeah.
gym.
But the results, the strength and the energy and leaning out and all of that, it's the same thing with business. If you have to start less frequently and with a smaller number on your list, and then build it up over time as you get more business, as you get more closings, I think that's a good way to do it. And, just start with what you can do. It's better to start now, even if it's smaller and less, than waiting until one day when you feel okay, oh, now I have a budget and I can do, a bigger amount or a bigger list or more frequently, because now you just spent however many years not mailing that smaller portion of your list that you could have been staying in contact with all that time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on the sphere end of it, having a lead magnet that's not something about buying or selling is super important. You know, the community is important too. That's one of my pillars that I like focus on for social media. And
Yeah.
so posting that and like asking someone, do you want my summer events magnet mailed to you for free? They're gonna probably sign up and they're not gonna fight you about giving you their email and their address versus
Yeah.
you asking them if they want to sell their house is probably going to be a little bit different of a conversation. So
Totally.
building that, if you want to build that authentically, if you don't have a sphere, that's a great way to do it. You know, offering
Yeah.
school calendars or bus routes or whatever, you know, whatever it might be. It's a great way to get people offline because what happens when Instagram is down for a day and everyone freaks out and they're like, oh my God, my business is gone. You know, you'll have to get those people offline. If you want them on your email list, you need to get them there. So, how are you going to do that authentically? By providing value. And so, when you
Yeah.
have fun things like that, you get to send cold messages that aren't that cold because they're going to want it, you know? So it's
Yeah.
instead of just messaging someone that like your post, do you want to buy a house? You're like, do you want to join my mailing list because I offer freebies and I send them
Yeah.
twice a year, you know? So it's like a
Yeah.
very natural way of progressing your relationship. So I think that's one of the biggest ones too that sometimes I forget to point out, like because it's huge. That's how I grew my mailing list. You can just meet 100 new people from when I first got started. I built it by offering items of value.
Yeah. I think that it's something that is really so simple in practice too, like offering something, fun. Like I know here I always offer fall events and things to do and like recommendations and like the list of events and trunk or treats because we have so many of them and like people eat that stuff up. I mean, I in the last month grew my local email list by over 110 people from one TikTok video. And I'm like,
Mm.
that is such a simple way to connect with more people. And the great thing is that like those people may never see another TikTok or Instagram video from me again because the algorithm is so weird with how, even if they followed me, only 3 to 4% of your followers are actually seeing the content. So if I can follow up with them in an email and I can send something to them physically, if I get their address at some point, you're increasing the number of contacts you have with them in different formats too, which I also think is different than just having the social media presence because I feel like that's just like one layer. And if you can layer like, oh, okay, an email, okay, now they've seen you on a piece of print marketing. And then even better if you can somehow meet them in person, even if you're like, hey, I'm hosting a mom's night out or I'm doing a play date at the park or whatever it is, or if you're hosting events, it just adds that like the layers of the connection almost and just builds up their relationship with you, even if you're like not having a ton of conversations like face to face. It's just another way to solidify their trust and their knowledge of like who you are and what you have to offer and that you are like for the community versus just for yourself and for your real estate business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I really agree with all of those things.
So, if you guys are looking to get started with farming and you guys want to get Kasie's farming kit, her course, I will link it in the show notes and the description for you guys. And I would recommend that you guys do that. She also has a digital planner, some physical planners that she has, and we also have a merch line with her. So I'll link all of that for you guys in the description. But Kasie, if you could give a mom in real estate one piece of advice right now, what would you tell them?
That's a great question.
Put you on the
My
spot.
my knee-jerk response was to quit. No, I'm just kidding. But I think the main way to build repeat and referral business is by getting your followers offline. So in your email, in their mailbox, I think that really is the way to build repeat and referral business. And also hire an assistant.
Okay. Yeah, and you have a virtual assistant, right? Or are you?
Yeah, I do have a virtual assistant.
Okay.
She doesn't handle any of my mailing stuff though.
Okay. So don't hand off your mailing stuff to a virtual assistant.
I just have control issues about that.
Okay. What kind of stuff do
The
you
social
have
media.
your virtual assistant do for you?
She does all my videos, my monthly email. Um, she posts to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, makes reels, schedules my coffee and contract stuff.
Okay.
I don't do any of that. You can tell if you go to my Instagram what I post and what she posts.
Okay.
If you really are focusing, like mine, just like, oh my God, I was at the pumpkin patch versus like hers, like, do you want to sell a house? So it's called balance,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think having that help has allowed me to spend more time with clients and close more deals and spend more time with my kids.
Yeah.
And so I think it's worth what I pay.
Cool. Yeah. I think that at some point, like all of us moms in real estate have to get help in some way or the other. And that's going to look different for everybody. And scaling your business, if you get to that point where you want to scale and either you want to get more time back or you want to do more deals or whatever it is, like we each have our own ways of how we're going to approach that. But getting a VA is one way that you can, you know, get more time back or have more time to spend on income producing activities, meeting people, going on appointments, showings, things like that. So there's a lot of good ways to approach, when you want to scale and when you're ready to like kind of level up, or if you're ready to get some of your time back in your business. So that's good. That's good to hear another perspective on that. Okay, Kasie, do you have anything else that you want to leave with our community before we hop off?
No. I would say you don't need a fancy new system. I know I'm selling one, but there are so many out there. It's so easy to get bogged down and feel like you're missing out on, like my friend just texted me, like I'm about to waste $100 on like some new uh marketing plan. Get back to the basics, focus on what works, focus on like two things that you can do consistently.
Yeah.
What works for me might not work for you. What works for Braden might not work for you. So I know 2025 is coming. We're all ready to get over this year. And, I think when you're setting up your business plan, don't shoot for the moon, shoot for the stars and land on the stars. Like figure out what exactly you can do. You're not going to be able to control how many deals you close. You're not going to be able to control what the interest rate does. You're not going to be able to control who wins the election. What you can do is focus on yourself, your family, and what you're capable of. So I think picking a couple things and just being consistent at those things is what's going to set you and your business apart. There's like shiny object syndrome to the max these days with everyone's courses and everything. And yes, educational things are so important, and like God bless it, because none of this stuff was around when I first got into real estate, and I was just, flying by the seat of my pants. But you can only do so much. So just figure out what works for you. Like if I would have just picked one thing 8 years ago, if I would have just picked one CRM 8 years ago, if I would have just picked one thing to stick with, you're gonna do so much better than trying to reinvent the wheel every 5 months. So that's my main thing. And I feel like I was listening to your last podcast with Brianna, and like she kind of mentioned how like it's so hard to like look at people's Instagrams and not compare yourself. Like you look at my Instagram, you wouldn't know has been the worst year in my real estate business since like year 3. And whether it's because I have dealt with so many sick kids and like everything else that's going on in the world, you wouldn't know that because I'm not going to post that because that's not for
Yeah.
my clients to know, you know. I'll tell you
Yeah.
guys because you're my friends. But um it you wouldn't know that looking at the things that I post. So it's so important to focus on yourself, focus on your business. When you get discouraged, if you have like a little notes app on your phone, like set your goals as your front screen or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and just focus on the things that you can control. You know, you can't control all the outside things. You can't control how many times your kid gets sick, but you can control that maybe you get off TikTok for a minute and make sure your email's cleared out and check on your CRM or whatever it is, you know? So
Yeah.
I know it's hard and everything is hard and being a mom is hard and being a realtor is hard and being both is double hard and everyone's crying all the time. But it, I don't know what I was saying, but it's gonna get better one day, I'm sure, and we'll be 50 years old and have our kids in college, and we'll be answering phone calls with silence in the background, and it will be sad. So,
Yeah.
just do what you can while you can, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think has come up in like almost every single guest like that we've had. And I just think that if we all continue to talk about this, like the comparison and how it feels, like if you look outside of yourself, like that you're behind or you're not doing enough, or, there's all these things, like it's so easy to get bogged down by that and to get into that comparison trap. And I just want to always encourage our community. Like first of all, we just don't know what's happening on the other side of a screen. We can't, everybody has their own things, everybody has their own circumstances, their own backgrounds. And there's just so much that's like outside of both like our reach, but also like our capacity to even have control over, that it's really, really important that we continue to like just get that encouragement from each other, and just like that honesty of like, hey, this is something that we all deal with in a way, and it can be discouraging, but like let's just lift each other up and remind each other like that you are doing great. And there's seasons both up and down, and there's seasons in motherhood and there's seasons in our businesses, and unfortunately they're not all good and they're not all great. And award-winning seasons where we're like, yes, this is my favorite season ever. And but that doesn't mean it's forever either. Like those seasons are going to come to an end. You're going to, if you can push through or take a break or step or whatever it looks like for you, you'll come out of that season and you'll go from a low season back into, you'll start rising up and go into a high season. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming back. Can you tell everybody, I'm going to link everything, but can you tell everybody where is best to connect with you and stay in contact, where they can reach out to you or send you referrals, all that good stuff?
Yes, my email is kasieukiah.net. And I'm over on Instagram at kasie.realtor. I'm on TikTok, but I really don't like to follow other realtors on TikTok because then my whole feed just turns into realtors, and I'm so tired of knowing about realtor things because I am a realtor, you know, so I just try to keep that kind of like for local stuff.
Yeah.
But I am on there, Kasie.realtor. Everything is pretty much Kasie.realtor. My stand store has linked to the podcast or postcard templates and all that. Whenever this goes live, I'll put it on sale for like a week because I'm too cheap to pay for extra stand store discount codes because
Okay.
I don't make that much from selling things like that. And then I do have digital planners, and in there has like my marketing plans and a whole bunch of other stuff. I do have a Modern Mama discount for Etsy, which I'll send to Brayden because I don't know it off the top of my head. And so we have some cute merch like the Hot Mom, Cool Moms Sell Houses, and other fun stuff. So that is on Etsy, and I'm on the YouTube where I have like my Trello and like further explanation of the postcard template and other stuff on YouTube. And I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so you guys can subscribe. I will. And if you need to find me, I am 1 hour north of one country, so we can go wine tasting if you're in the area. Other than that, I'll be listening with you guys.
Cool. All right, Kasie, thank you so much for coming on. And ladies, if you haven't, come join us in the Facebook group at the Modern Real Estate Mama for more connections, education, lots of good stuff coming to the Facebook group soon. So always looking forward to connecting and looking forward to seeing all of your takeaways from this episode.